Hi guys, welcome to another episode. I'm all dolled up today because Alon had a brunch earlier this morning, DJ gig, and tonight I'm going to Nate Jackson's comedy club with my brother and his wife. They're coming into town, so I'm super excited for that. But anyways, this episode, I'm all dolled up, so I was like, why not film while I look good instead of being in my couch potato t-shirt? But this episode is going to be talking about how music saved my life. It's just an experience I hope that everyone can have once in their life where it's like they just find their thing. And it feels like when you do it, you're leaving your soul, like your mark, out in the world. And you're actually expressing what goes on in here, out here. You know what I mean? Probably. Oh my god, I'm going to keep doing that. I feel like the most insufferable people to be around are creative people who have no creative outlet. No, a good thing it's just water. I'm supposed to wear this tonight, like I said. Okay. I shouldn't have been trying to do ASMR or anything, but luckily it's just water at the end of the day, so. But yes, I think the most insufferable kind of people that you can possibly be around are creative people who have no creative outlet, or maybe they've found their creative outlet and they're not creating. And I mean, like, that is true for me. That's true for my mom. Like, my mom is an amazing artist. She's so good at painting and drawing. And she had an entire room just like full of art supplies. And we were a very disorganized, messy family growing up. And so it was just kind of like a room of just looked like everything was blown up in there. And she couldn't get it organized, or told herself she couldn't do it, so she didn't. And she went to multiple different art colleges and never graduated them and just kept on switching between. But she was so amazing at art, and I could tell the happiest that my mom ever was growing up is when she was doing art. And she just like didn't believe in herself enough to keep doing it and to continue executing it. And it's like even when she was doing it, when she was done, it was like an immediate shooting herself down. And that's just an example, but I find myself being almost similar in a way where it's like, if I'm not creating, I'm the biggest person to be around in the world. I'm the most sulky, I'm the most moody, like dramatic person ever. I feel like my whole life is ending. I literally feel like I'm dying. And then I'm like, well, why do I feel like that? And it's like, because all you've done is go to work, go home, do house chores, cook. Like, you're just doing mundane, everyday tasks. You're stuck in the house, you're cooped up. And it's like, what have you done to fill your cup? And for me, it's like, I can do lots of things to fill my cup. I can hang out with friends. I can do skincare. I can do my makeup. I can read a book. I can sit outside. I love being outside on a nice sunny day. But like, and those will momentarily fill my cup, but nothing fills my cup like creating. And I think for a long time growing up, I didn't believe that I had an artistic kind of brain. But I also didn't like math or science. So I was like, where do I fall in between? And I really enjoyed English class. I loved literature. I loved reading, and I loved writing. And I was like set that I was going to become an author. I am actually working on a book, which is really healing my inner child, because I wanted to do that since I was like in 5th grade. And so the fact that I'm kind of full circle coming back to it, love that. And that's what your 20s is really should be about. But anyways, I wanted to be a good drawer. I wanted to be good with painting and stuff, like how my sister and my mom were. And my mom would sit down and she would try and teach me, but I was just always so frustrated because I was such a perfectionist, and me just not being good at something, I just wasn't good at something right off the bat, and I would want to quit immediately. My mom saw that in me, and she would try and force me to do it anyways, but then the way it was being taught just did not stick. I did not like it. It was not something that sang to me as a child. And so I think I had people who, like, my dad was he's a computer scientist, like he's math, science brain. My mom likes drawing and painting. And I think I do like to draw on occasion now. It's something that I will do because I need multiple creative outlets. Like, I need to do everything, which is why I've circled back to writing as well. I need to have a little bit of everything. And so for me, drawing is when I'm like really, really in my head and I'm almost depressed and I don't feel like I can get up out of bed, but I need to do something with my hands specifically. It's like I'm having anxiety or I struggle with panic attacks and things like that. It really, really helps do something with my hands, and it's absent-minded. I love doodling. Like, I would not call myself a connoisseur with a, colored pencil or a paintbrush, you know what I mean? But like, I do enjoy it. It's just, I think my mom was trying to make me like her because I was her daughter, and my sister was very similar to her in art style. So I think it just wasn't clicking. And I think that's another thing about creativity or something that you love, even like sports and stuff. Like when you have a bad coach, it'll ruin the sport. And I feel like that kind of was the situation for that growing up. But I didn't have a parent to like help me navigate, like, oh, okay, you're not exactly like me. Like, you're my kid, so we're gonna have similar traits, obviously. But like, you're not gonna love everything I do exactly how I do it. So let's help you kind of explore and figure this out. And I didn't really have that. And so I was just sitting there thinking, well, I'm good at writing because school taught me that. And I was in an environment where that was fostered. And so I was like, okay, I'll really lean into that and reading. I loved music. I was a worship leader in my youth group, which I touched a little bit on in my last episode. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I had friends from youth group, a friend that I still am like on socials with and stuff, and she's like one of the sweetest people I know. And she was on the worship team with me, and we would get together like even outside of youth group stuff just to play keyboard and strum on the guitar and sing together, and it was like such a release, and I loved it. And I always wanted to like write my own song, but that was definitely not allowed, especially with that tyrant of a youth leader. He was like, it's not going to be good. I'm not going to let you do that because then everyone's going to want to do it and everybody wants to be a star, blah 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 blah. I would try to write songs in like high school and stuff, but it was very like God-centric, because I felt like everything I had to do had to be about God. I felt like I couldn't have a personality outside of that, or like that was my personality. I felt like I really do everything that you do it for the glory of God in a literal sense. And when I don't think that God created us, okay? We're made in God's image. And so what we do, if we have an enjoyment in something, if we're doing it to the best of our ability and you believe in God, and this is in the scope of if you believe in God, then you're doing it for the glory of God because you're made in his image. So it's not like I had to, every line I wrote in a song had to have the word God in it. It was giving white people Jesus hip hop. Like, it was just not good. Yeah, anyways, but it was fun to kind of tinker around with. But again, I know the basics of piano. I know the basics of guitar. I wouldn't call myself a musician in that kind of an aspect. I kind of tinker around. I'm very like youth group level, which is like, if you know like the G, E minor, C, D chord. Like, that's pretty much what I have to work with. And so I wasn't like creative enough really or I guess I didn't have the knowledge. I'll say that. I didn't have the knowledge to meet what I felt in my head and in my heart like I had the creativity to do. And so it was hard to write music with no soundtrack. So it was more like elongated poetry. And my dad actually is very good at poetry. So that's something, because I found some of his old poems, and it's like, as I got older, I felt this string connecting through the older generations. My grandma's amazing at poetry and writing. She's given me some of her stuff. And fundamentally, like, to be a good artist, to make good music, you should be a poet first, especially when it comes to hip hop. And I make all sorts of music. I don't like to limit myself to one genre, but I did start with rap. And to be a good rapper, you need to be a poet. And like, there's no argument there. The OGs said it themselves, so I really don't want to hear any argument. I guess that's where that started. And then like I said, I left the church when I was 18. I moved to Oregon, and I got broken up with from my high school boyfriend, and literally like I got out of that relationship in March, and by August I was in a relationship with my ex-boss who groomed me, who was the ex talked about in the magic mushroom story. And that was almost a 3-year long relationship, and it sucked all of the life and all of the joy out of me. And adolescence, because 18, 19, 20 is still adolescence in my opinion, and then you kind of like reach young adulthood because psychology has shifted its stages of development. due to the economy making it very difficult to move out and have certain like young adult experiences at the younger ages that like boomers were. They've added more time. So essentially, like, you're still in adolescence through pretty much 20 years old, and then you enter young adulthood, which makes sense, right? Because 18, 19. So anyways, adolescent years, right? Very fundamental for your development. And I feel like mine were sucked dry by an evil succubus, and I didn't really have an outlet for that. And so I think like heavily my outlet became weed. Um, Not so much alcohol because I didn't drink that much, but like when I did, I was going way overboard. And I would say makeup really was an outlet. I've always loved doing makeup. I used to watch beauty channels and stuff. So it's like my soul has always yearned. Like, I need to create, because I remember even having a hard time in my household and feeling trapped in my household as a child and being like, my entire environment is just like crushing in on me, and I need to find a way to get this energy out. Like, I just need to find a way to do it. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. That's literally how it felt. And I didn't realize that I was looking for a creative outlet. I just felt so much pent up energy inside of me while simultaneously feeling like a void, and just like so much there, but also so little there. And it just felt so confusing and entrapping, and like really, you understand the haunted poet or like musician archetype. Also, I'm a Pisces, so it's just like my head is always in the clouds, and I had no creativity for it to go anywhere. I had it, but I wasn't, enacting it. I wasn't participating in creativity, and so it was just all pent up. And then when I got out of that toxic relationship, I was 21, and or like 2 months before I turned 21, and I had moved in with my best friend, and I just felt like ground zero, and I felt scared, but I also felt really free. And I was like, okay, this is what my 20s are for. Like, I get to explore myself and find myself and actually like start this journey that I was trying to start when I was 18, that I feel like got stunted and kind of taken from me. And I'm ready and I'm excited. And I also had so much depression. There was so much to work through. That relationship took so much from me, in more ways than one. Just was a very difficult time. I was thinking very dark thoughts, and I was just like grasping onto anything. I was definitely abusing alcohol at the time. And I could go out to clubs and stuff, but like I said, my best friend couldn't. So it's like, I was just trying to figure out something that we could both do together, things like that. But yeah, we had like no furniture in my apartment. I got a pole though. We had 2 poles, and I had started doing that. That's another form of creativity for me, is dance. I love dance. And I started doing that, and that's what I would do like late into the nights. I would just listen to music, and I felt like the way that I danced would be more like a ballerina. I know pole dancing is very sexualized, but like I didn't feel sexual when I was pole dancing. I felt like a ballerina. I felt so pretty and like ethereal, and I wasn't doing it for anyone but myself. And it was so fun and such a great release of energy, but I need more. There was like something in my soul that was still like just not, I needed to get it out. I needed to express myself. There was so much going on in the world, as there always is, but I had changed so much, and I had come to understand the world in a completely different way in such a short amount of time. I was going from believing in this cult like full force, and then in the next coming years getting into an abusive relationship, and just my entire reality had shifted. And essentially just finally having this space, being out of that awful relationship, kind of taking a step back and looking at all of this stuff from childhood to adulthood to now I'm by myself, and like, what has happened in that time? So much had happened in that time, and I really thought about it, and I was like, nothing that I believed is real to me anymore. It's just crazy how I could dedicate my entire life, which obviously being 20, that's not, there's so much life to live, and as you get older, you realize that that's really such a small fraction of your time here, but like, that was my entire life as I had known it, and it still is the majority of my life at my age, being 24, so it's like, just kind of sent me through a loop, and I was really struggling with that, and I felt kind of crazy, because I was like, And I was dealing with paranoia and was dealing with the hallucinations. I was dealing with so much. And so I started writing music. I had done this back in Oregon when I was 18, the brief amount of time I was single before getting in to that second relationship, which I found was interesting as I seemed to always lean into music a lot when I was single, or the times where I felt very alone. And I think it was because I felt scared if I was trying to do that. Like, you're always in such close proximity when you're living with your partner. And so I think, like, for me to create music, I really need to be alone and I need to be in my own thoughts. And it's so hard for me to create with another person there, but especially when that person is so judgmental about every single thing you do. It doesn't give you that freedom to create and kind of, like, you know, trial and error and figure out what you like and what you don't, what sounds good and what doesn't. And so, I had the freedom, where I felt like I had the freedom, and I would try to, like, I would write lyrics and then I would try to find a beat that kind of worked with it, which obviously does not make sense, so it just didn't sound great, but, like, my lyrics were always fire because I'm a poet. And so, like, my lyricism has always been great, but the cadence, I can't count music, I just go do 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 do, which, like, I'm a great DJ, so it's like obviously what works for me works for me. I have rhythm, but I'm not very technical when it comes to music, so there was a lot of that, like, you know, being a poet versus turning that into music takes some transitioning. And you could tell I was at the beginning of that transition. And I did a couple of songs that I tried to write, dropped it. And then I kind of picked that back up, and it's just, I was writing about the world. I was writing about how capitalism tears us apart, about how I was desperate for community and how I felt like so many people, we just can't even, like, get our heads up for a moment enough to be able to take a breath, to look at our surroundings, to take in what's going on, to say hi to someone, because we're just work. And yes, that's how I felt. So I was writing about it, and I would post it on TikTok, and I would get so many hate comments, especially because my page has always been incels, but also, to be fair, my cadence wasn't great. And the hate comments were, you know, granted, they were funny, because TikTok comments are pretty funny. It gave me some thick skin for sure. And I had learned about an open mic at this cafe that I would go to because I was vegan, and it's like one of the only places in my town that has vegan food, and really good vegan food at that. And so I was like, oh, I want to go to this open mic. It was something that me and my best friend could do because you didn't have to be 21 to go. And I remember the first time I had gone up, I was fully expecting, you know, I was expecting people to boo me, and if they didn't boo me, to just kind of stare at me, because it's Washington, it's very passive aggressive, and just kind of be like, okay, and not clap or whatever, because of the hate I was getting online was just horrendous. But after I performed for the first time, I had no vocal track, it was just a beat off Spotify, and I was completely, you know, I had no track, and it was very raw and authentic, and I was met with so much support. That night I met people that I still call my friends in my community today, that are very important and, like, found in my foundation, and will always be important to me no matter how, you know, much distance and time may come between us. They will always be my people. And they just came up to me and said such kind words, offered me their information, and, like, wanting to collab and stuff like that, and me just having this feeling of, like, wow, like, I'm not awful and people want to hear what I say. Like, what I'm saying is something that's relatable. It's not just a bunch of gibberish that feels like, oh, you need to be 5150, because that's really how I felt at the time. So putting it out on paper was so vulnerable for me. But I'm so glad I did it, and I honestly don't think I would have done it if I wasn't at rock bottom, which is, like, for some people that might be funny. It's funny to me now at where I'm at, thinking about, like, how at that time going up to do an open mic was really probably, like, the scariest thing I had done in my life. To me, there was objectively a lot of other things that were much scarier that I had been through at that time, but for some reason, I feel like the fact that I was at rock bottom, it just made me feel like, well, I don't believe I can do anything, honestly. I have horrible anxiety, and I usually doubt myself a lot, but at this point, I have nothing to lose, so I'm gonna do it. And after that, it started giving me so much confidence, and started to rebuild me brick by brick into the person I am today. Honestly, without music, I feel like I would still be tortured and a little bit psychotic and making poor decisions and in some corporate job that I hate, which I mean, you know, we all gotta hustle to get where we wanna go, but I have direction now. I have goals, I have dreams, and I didn't really have that before because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know what I want. And music gave me direction and it gave me purpose. And it also made me see myself for who I really am, which is constantly shifting, constantly changing. But music helps me navigate that. And stay in touch with myself and check in with myself, and it helps me expand and grow. And I had never really utilized a tool like that before because I didn't know how to. I didn't even know what to look for in doing that. And so after that open mic, I kept on coming back weekly. I was in it to win it. I started doing some local shows. I was so excited. I literally was like, oh, someone's from LA is gonna see me and they're gonna pick me right up because that's how it works. No, I wasn't that naive. I knew, even though I felt in my heart, I was like, I'm gonna be famous. I knew that it wasn't going to be a short and easy route, and now I don't think I'm looking for fame, honestly, at all. I guess that's kind of a lie. I feel like I could be famous if I really, really, really put the pedal to the metal, but I think I've stopped to think about what I really want, and I don't know if fame is what I really want. And I don't believe that because I think I'm the best, but there's also a lot of people out there who are famous that I think we can all agree are nowhere near the best, so I don't think that that's what it takes to be famous. I think it's about the draw that you have and also your relatability, and I feel like that was what I left on the stage. That's what I leave on the stage every time I get off it, every time I perform. So yeah, but that also, at those open mics is where I met my boyfriend, and I remember he saw me rapping and he was very surprised and came out to me and was like, came outside when I was sitting down with my friend and basically was like, can I get your Instagram? That was super dope. He was like, I've performed in front of thousands of people before at the Tacoma Dome, no big deal, but you're really great. I know there's a joke about him being Hollywood, but he's just very blunt, and so am I, so it works out. But he was being honest though. He just was like, that was really good. And I really appreciated his, I was going to say commentary, but kindness, his kind words. And also he's surprised this white girl can get up and spit like that. So, but that's how I met him. And music, I feel like, is a core part of our relationship. And obviously it's built into so much more. But I feel like the fact that I've just had all these awful experiences in my relationships previously, and I couldn't be myself, let alone be vulnerable enough to show, my creative side and make music and do these things, especially being with such insecure men. I would have had such a hard time even trying to do open mics or performances because you're around so many people and you do get a lot of attention, and it's something that's been difficult for me to navigate because my partner is also an artist, and so it's that never would have worked being with insecure leeches who didn't want to see my light going to anyone but them. And then even that, when they would try and destroy mine. So it's not like they were keeping it to protect it or to care for it. And also keeping anything like that is, that's controlling anyways. But it was new navigation all around. I had never had friends and community. People that wanted to see me and support me, and then also this relationship where I feel like wholeheartedly he is my person, and I never had that before, and I felt like none of that would have been possible without music. And it taught me a very valuable lesson that sometimes, you can have all these great ideas in your head, you can even do them in your own home, but unless you go outside and do something, no motion can come from that because you're in a vacuum. And so I realized the very second that I just stepped outside and decided to be myself and decided to have enough confidence to just put it all out there. And it didn't feel like much at the time because it's all I had left. And like I said, I was at rock bottom, so it didn't feel like very high stakes at the time. But I got so much reward from that, of just all of these things that I had been a child and feeling like isolated from the church, isolated from kids at my school, isolated from my family, and then got older and felt isolated in my own romantic relationships, friendships, and stuff like that. And I had just remember being on the floor crying as a kid and having no one but my dog literally sitting next to me and just being like, I want love so bad, platonic, community, familial, romantic. I just want to feel like I have a village. I want to feel connected to people. Like that's what I have always wanted. And I also want people to know me and to love me for who I am. I don't want to have to mask myself. I don't want to have to try and shove myself in this box all the time. Like, I want to let it all out and see what happens. And little did I realize that that's, you don't try and fit yourself in the box, get friends, and then let it out. That's not how that works. You start being yourself 100%, and you will attract who should be in your life, who deserves to be in your life, who loves you for who you are, and not shying away from yourself or making yourself smaller in order to try and attract people, because that will attract the wrong people. And music taught me all of that. And then obviously later that evolved. My artistry evolved into DJing, which I absolutely love. I think I still love performing a little bit more than DJing, ironically, because I really don't perform as much anymore. But the feeling is just so different, but also so fulfilling in both ways. And I love the way DJing, it's not like you are organically creating your own sound, but it's music that's already been created and you're manipulating it into something completely new. And people will be able to tell who you are behind the booth, even if they can't see you, just by how you're choosing to blend that music or mix that music. And that's such like an empowering feeling. And it's also dope because it's, again, about connectivity. It's about people, bringing people together, having a good time, laughing and dancing. And, that's a way I've wanted to express myself since I was young. But again, conservative Christian, don't move, don't dance, don't smile, don't clap, don't be too happy, don't be too loud. Just feeling monotone all of the time in body language and verbal language. It's just like, even the songs we sang were 1800 hymns. Like, we couldn't have shit. So I just look at my life and I'm like so excited that this is what I do now. This is what I get to do. And I have a lot of love and passion for it. And it continues to shape me. It continues to teach me lessons. And I would say the hard part is sometimes feeling when you reach that plateau and when that novelty wears off and it becomes another version of everyday life. And I try to challenge myself every time I feel that rut, I guess you could call it, come up, because I know how important music is to me. It's not just how I make money. It's not just, for attention. It's not just even just the people. It's for me. It's my medicine. It's literally medicinal to me and better than any pill or any drug I could have used to mask what I was feeling. It is the best kind of medicine. And I know that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, rewards your energy when you are pouring into yourself like that and being 100% authentically yourself. And that is a high that I would love to ride the rest of my life. But obviously life always goes in ups and downs. And sometimes, you have your off days or your days where you're just not feeling it, or your days where you want to be inside and you don't want anyone to see you or look at you, perceive you. And I have those days all the time, but I try not to allow myself to get too stuck into that, because I love to try and remind myself the novelty of music, and I try to keep things fresh and new because I just want to keep on learning and keep on searching, and I never want to become stagnant. So, but yeah, I don't know how long this video is. I think it's probably a little bit of a shorter one, but I just wanted to, I'm dolled up, I'm cute, so I want to do a little bit of an episode real quick for you guys. But I also there were some people who were giving me good ideas of what they wanted to hear about on my podcast, and my music journey was one of them. So I thought, why not? That's how most of you guys know me, in the Tacoma surrounding area, if you guys are watching. And so I figured I'd, love to give some insight on that. And to the people who have been here since day one, I love you guys so much. I appreciate you more than words can explain. And we're all going to make it in our own different ways. And I know that we're going to be there for each other no matter how much distance or time, comes between us. It's never going to actually really come between us. You know what I'm trying to say? But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to have, that was so millennial and gross of me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and take a look at my other videos and give this video a like. Go ahead and subscribe. My other socials will be linked down below. Bye!